what a difference it is today as we face climate changing. I once started some years ago a Toodaloo Tuvalu campaign. Let's hope it won't be bye-bye Belonjol. Well, this opening event is sponsored by Southern Cross University. I visited its campus yesterday in the peace and quiet of leafy Lismore. Strange place, I thought, to study criminal law and politics and penology. Long way from where all the action is, but they told me they're curing that. They're opening a new campus at the Gold Coast. Queensland really is a marvel of primitive political science. I was there earlier this year, just after the state elections, and noticed the MPs all out congratulating those who'd voted for them and putting flowers on graves and so on. In Queensland, Labour can do anything. It can raise the dead and lead them to the polling booths. And there'll be some great criminal trials for your law students to observe. My favourite was a few weeks ago. I read the transcript of it. It began, the cross-examination of the defendant began like this: Mr. Rod Martin, SC. So you received this secret payment of $360,000 for doing absolutely nothing. Mr. Nuttall: that's correct. Says all you need to know about politics in Queensland. The old Tony Fitzgerald reminds me of the story of that young and idealistic cop who once pulled Russ Hintz, the Minister for Police, over for speeding. And when told he would be ticketed, Russ pulled out of his pocket a map of rural Queensland, and he spread it across the bonnet, and he said to the cop with a menacing smile, "Now, Sonny, where would you like to be posted?" Of course, things are so much different, aren't they, in New South Wales? The University Chancellor, John Dowd, had a distinguished career in the New South Wales Liberal Party in those days before a belief in the literal meaning of the Old Testament became a qualification for pre-selection. It's difficult, really, to see the Liberals in federal power and any time soon. The policy on carbon trading is so incontinent it seems to have been drafted by Tony Abbott's chastity advisor. I guess he should be here. He's got a new book out, which no doubt you're all rushing to buy. It's called, appropriately, Battle Lines. Right? It's like Singapore. All these guns are facing in the wrong direction. Well, I've spoken of my family connection with Byron, but my family connection with literature, as Paul has pointed out, is rather more intense. My wife writes full-time, I write occasionally, and when I do, I stay at home and suffer invariably the cry, "Why don't you get out of the house, go down to court and earn some money?" We do meet on the stairs and have a go at editing each other's works. If you read in one of my books about the Gulf War friendly fire incidents that the American pilots were having a bad air day, you know that Kathy's tinkered with my prose. But, we had an argument over one of the lines in a recent book. She said, and I read it in draft, she felt she was in a Rousseau-like state of nature. And I sort of hit the roof. I said, don't you know it's Hobbes who's the state? Rousseau is the social contract. Hobbes is the state of nature. She looked blankly and said, oh, I thought I was referring to that French painter who put people in jungles. Meanwhile, the kids are upstairs burning down the curtains. So, fortunately, it's all quiet on the domestic front at the moment. Kathy's been writing the world's first underwater book, a waterproof novel. This was inspired by a recent survey in Britain of occupations under stress. They tested the stress levels of bankers, lawyers, airline pilots, and so on. And you know, the occupation that turned out to have the most stress was housewives. And so how can she help housewives relax? Relax in water. Well, of course, as we know, the English don't take showers, and they do bath once a week. And so she's teamed up with some bath salts manufacturers to write a novel on waterproof paper so that women can take more relaxing baths by reading it. It's called, of course, The Wife of Bath's Tale. And I think it possibly has a future. A novel you can save for a rainy day. A novel you can read in the surf while waiting for the next wave. A book you can give to American scuba divers so they can read on the barrier reef when they're left behind by the dive boat. I guess its publication next month will be some consolation to Cathy for her omission, like most other great Australian writers, from the Macquarie Pen Anthology of Australian Literature. But she's sure to be in the second edition. She'll have something to appeal to those obscure academics who put it together, because a leading English university will, in November, bestow upon her an honorary degree. And she's taking this very seriously, having run away from Sylvania Heights High School at about the age of 14. She's going to be honored by a degree called a Companion of Literature, a C. Lit. An acronym of which she will never tire of pointing out. Well, this is a festival of literature, a celebration of the good times that we have with the written and spoken word, of the power of literature to open our minds to new feelings and ideas, the part it has played and will play in encouraging human progress. That literature can improve is not a proposition that is universally accepted in the modern world, even in the West. Judge Richard Posner, in his new edition of Law and Literature, positively rejects it because, he says, modern literature is brimful of moral atrocities depicted with uncritical acceptance and often relish, written by intellectuals who are notorious for their rancorous feelings of personal superiority, alienation, and resentment. Well, having met a lot of authors, I think that's probably true of most of them, but it's beside the point. To take a few names at random, you can be disgusted by Lord Byron's personal behavior towards women and attractive Greek youth, but that, whilst thrilling to Childe Harold, there's nothing more loathsome, actually, than Virginia Woolf's personal diary, and probably Virginia herself, as she contemplates killing mentally disordered persons who'd upset her on a ramble in the country, but that doesn't affect the prose of To the Lighthouse. The capacity of the written word to change the way we think, to expand our sense of justice or compassion, has, of course, to mesh with other factors, with opportunity, with happenstance before it takes effect. But the social reforms, inspired, for example, by the characters of Charles Dickens and Mr. Fang, the magistrate, whose sentences every day made the angels blind with weeping, moves us without doubt.